Art is a normal and necessary behavior of human beings. It's via art that our experience can be heightened, elevated, made more memorable and significant. With this in mind, we've embedded into the Sphere 2017 Symposium Programme a selection of multi-sensory, interactive and participatory performances and artworks. To launch the Via Art programme, I'll introduce Dr. Michaela Davies and the Cyborg String Quartet. Michaela's work investigates sonic possibilities, human limits, and the nature of free will, using electrical muscle stimulation to control the movement of performers. The neurologists in the audience will be fascinated. Two of the performers in the Cyborg String Quartet are classically trained musicians. The other two are not trained to play the violin or the viola. Their movements are controlled by the custom-built device you're going to see here, which sends electrical impulses to their muscles to generate specific involuntary movements and forces them to play the instruments. If only my music lessons as a child had been so easy. Now for compositions from the Cyborg String Quartet, featuring Ben Smith from the Galicia Symphony Orchestra and James Beck from the Sydney Art Quartet. And it may take a moment or two for them to set up the technology. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cyborg String Quartet. Now, the panelists are going to participate in the performance. James Beck and Ben Smith will be joined by violist Monique Mezzatesta and violinist Michael Bridges to play Pachelbel's Canon in D. Now, this is obviously a pillar of the Western musical canon, and we're going to ask the panel to come up and vandalize this pillar of Western musical tradition, choosing moments, their own moments, to sabotage the musician's control over their own limbs and disrupt the piece. This keyboard that's being currently set up, I'm going to speak slowly because I think it's just being set up by Michaela as we speak. The buttons on this keyboard, so listen panel, send electrical impulses to the musician's arms, are identified by the colored bands on the performer's wrist. Each button causes a different effect. The top row of buttons sends a sudden jolt to the musician's arms, and the second row sends a stream of small disruptive impulses. And for those of you who were watching the violinists who had the electromyographic electrodes on their arms, this is not a painless experience. So this is really suffering for art, except the panelists aren't going to be suffering, the musicians will be suffering, so go easy on them. So we'll just wait until Michaela's got this set up, and Michaela will guide us to the keyboard. Music. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cyborg String Quartet, Michaela, Davies. And what was that experiment? I think it was in the 60s or early 70s, where explaining how ordinary people can do despicable things to their fellows. Milgram's experiment, I think it was. So our despicable panel doing these awful things. But please thank our panel as well. And thank you again. And now it's time for morning tea, which is out in the foyer.